because we come from communities where the truth doesn't always reach the headlines, but it lives in what we face every day. This is Changing Trends and Times, bringing clarity and context to the issues shaping our lives right now. No spin, no distractions, just real talk rooted in real impact. Now, are you ready to lean in and bring your voices into the conversation? Then, allow me to introduce to you a man committed to asking the questions that matter and breaking it down so we all understand. Your host, Charles King.
We are living inside the most consequential technological transformation in recorded human history, and most people don't fully understand what that means yet. Artificial intelligence is not a feature update. It is not the next version of something familiar. It is a fundamental restructuring of how labor is organized, how knowledge is valued, how businesses are built, how decisions are made, and how economies determine who gets ahead and who gets left behind. Every industry you can name, healthcare, finance, education, law, entertainment, real estate, transportation, manufacturing, ministry, is being remade by AI right now at a pace that is not waiting for anyone to catch up. And the question I want to put on the table today, the question I believe this moment demands, the one that does not get asked loudly enough in the rooms where these conversations are happening, is a simple one. Who gets left behind this time? Because this is not the first technological revolution, and historically, the answer to that question has looked remarkably, painfully consistent. Think about the Industrial Revolution. Think about the digital revolution. Think about the rise of the internet and the explosion of e-commerce. At every inflection point in the history of modern technology, certain communities, and I want to be direct about which communities, absorbed the disruptions of those revolutions without sharing proportionally in their benefits. Black communities built the railroads. They couldn't ride. Black workers mechanized industries that then replaced them without severance. Black neighborhoods were redlined out of the mortgage systems that built the wealth of the American middle class. And when the internet arrived, the digital divide became a new geography of exclusion, a canyon between those who had access to the tools and those who were told the tools were not for them. We're standing at the same crossroads again. The AI revolution is here. And the question is not whether it reshaped everything. It will. The question is whether this time we will be inside the transformation or outside of it. Whether we will be building the future or simply having it built around us. Without our input, without our investment, without our informed consent, I am Charles Zachary King, your host on Changing Trends and Times, a show built on one foundational conviction: that trends change, times change, and the people who thrive are the ones who learn to lead the change rather than merely react to it. I'm a Black entrepreneur in the South who has watched his community navigate every version of this story. The promise and the gap, the revolution and the exclusion. And I want to tell you tonight that I am less interested in the hype around artificial intelligence than I am in the question of access. Who is being trained? Who is being certified? Who is building the tools? Who is writing the books? Who is running the academies? And who is specifically building those academies for the people who have been told in 100 different ways that the future is not for them. At the center of today's conversation is a phrase that I want you to hold on to, a phrase that I believe is the most important framework in the AI conversation that almost no one is using. Train the human. Deploy the AI. It sounds simple. It is profound. What it means is this: technology is not intelligent by itself. It is not compassionate by itself. It is not strategic by itself. It is a tool, an extraordinary world-altering tool, but still a tool. And like every tool in history, its impact is determined entirely by the hands that hold it. An untrained hand with a powerful tool does not produce excellence. It produces accident. The real competitive advantage in the age of artificial intelligence is not who has the most sophisticated software. It is who has done the work, the deliberate, disciplined human work of learning how to deploy it with clarity, intention, and purpose. Without that training, AI does not reduce inequality, it deepens it. Without that preparation, the gap between the people who shape the AI economy and the people who are shaped by it grows wider with every passing quarter. Train the human first, then deploy AI. Today's guest is the man who has made that principle his life's work. He is an AI strategist, a U.S. Army veteran, a doctoral graduate, the author of 4 books on artificial intelligence, the CEO and co-founder of Skilldora Inc, based in Fort Mill, South Carolina, the creator of the Thrive AI framework, and the host of the weekly podcast, Talking Techish. He built First AI Academy in the United States, where the courses are taught entirely by AI digital human instructors, globally accredited and designed for the ground up for the people the tech industry keeps skipping. Small business owners, working professionals, ministry leaders, and communities of color. He has been featured on The Roland Martin Show, in Savoy, in Black Enterprise, in the Financial Post, and was named Best Startup of 2025 by SC Biz News. He built all of this alongside the woman who is his partner in every sense of the word, Dr. Dawn Nicole Mcllwain. 3 years before most of the world had ever heard of Chat GPT, ladies and gentlemen, it is my genuine honor to welcome to Changing Trends and Times, Dr. DeMario Mcllwain. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
I am just excellent. Thanks for asking. What about yourself?
Everything is lovely, and thank you for that beautiful intro there, man. I had to sit back and say, who is he talking about?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm glad that we're about to have this great discussion, because I think it's one that deserves more than just attention, but it deserves to be heard. And for the betterment of all communities, especially the underserved and marginalized communities, I really hope that they're actually going to get the message that you're going to be giving today.
Oh yes, for sure.
So, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we get into the show?
Well, hey, like I say that, thank you for having me. This is a topic very dear to my heart. And you like I say, you did such a great intro there. I don't think I could add any more to that, so we can jump in.
Well, I appreciate that. And what I like to do first is, as I do with all shows, is I like to start first by giving our audience the opportunity to learn a little bit more about who you are as we delve into the great things that you are doing. And this is what I would like to call your roots, your life story, and the making of Dr. McElwain. When you look back at where you began, your upbringing, your early environment, the world you were born into, what are two or three formative experiences that you believe laid the deepest foundation for the person and the builder you've become?
Oh, that's a great question. Man, two to three things. Well, the crazy thing about it is the world that I'm in today, like I'll often say, I didn't plan to be here. I started off my life's journey as a musician. I still love music to this day. I've played instruments for many, many years, untrained, in the gospel market and around in the secular markets. So, going through that pathway, I just ultimately knew that I would retire somewhere like a famous music producer, like a Dr. Dre, Rodney Jerkins, or Prince or somebody like that. But that pathway changed. I actually, I went into the military, did some time there, did 10 years in the military. That kind of shaped me in a different narrative. In the military was when the first time I actually started working with computerized systems. Because in my role, we were working on computerized systems, and anybody know about the internet, it kind of came from the military. So, that will be my 1, 2 step. And then with the third step, I most definitely have to give it up to, my environment along with my lovely wife, Dr. Dawn Nicole. With that scenario, we were always, I say, with a slight side of creativeness and technology and training. So, when you morph all of that together and then you throw a little bit of salt and pepper on it, which I call AI, that's how we get here today.
Well, you know what? Look, I got to say that's a unique mixture, but I think it's one that brings lots and lots of value because I understand that concept. And when you think about that from where you started to where you are now with you and your wife, as y'all have created this great process, Can you tell us how is it that you guys decided that AI was going to be that next thing?
Oh, I love this story. Um, Really, I like to tell people first. I start off by saying that we didn't find AI. AI kind of found us. We were in a situation where we were providing trainings, in-person trainings to teams and things like that. My wife is actually a global trainer, so I always tell people if she have ideas, I build it. Um, but we started off in this world doing training, and we had this aha moment. Instead of running out doing trainings, what if we could build a platform, and get all of these subject matter experts on this platform, and the people can come to us. So, trying to solve a problem here, probably mainly me, because I got tired of traveling so much. But so when we did this, we started a boot camp. When she started a boot camp, I started developing a platform, which today we know as a learning management system, just basic scenarios. And then we're going to take these subject matter experts, get them on camera just like we are now, and they was going to talk about their things, and we're going to put it into bite-sized courses, and voila, we got a training program. But what happened was the weirdest thing. A lot of the people that were the subject matter experts didn't like the way they sounded on camera. They didn't like, the way they looked on camera. So next thing you know, after we into almost a whole year of going through this, we were about to end up with nothing. So it was a crazy thing. I can't remember where my wife was exactly, but she was out somewhere and she sent me a text. And this text was about this company that was using facial recognition technology. They were in Israel. They was using facial recognition technology combating against CVT cams rather, that was on the street. But this is where the creative side come in. I looked at that and said, could we utilize that technology to, like, for people to kind of digitize them to get this core stuff built out? Because that's all I'm thinking about. Long story short on that, we reached out to the company. We ended up licensing the software, and voila, we were able to clone people. Like
Oh,
take a picture of you, clone you, take the curriculum and put it up online. And we like, wow. And then that scared the heck out of people, like we are cloning. So, people have to remember this stuff wasn't common back then. This was like in 2021.
right. You went out. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
This is what we call technology. And I'm making sure that you can actually see me. So something happened just right there that we was like, okay, all right. Can you hear me? Am I frozen on your screen?
No. No. You're good.
Okay, cool. It's doing something crazy on this side. See, that's that energy of when we start telling the story right here. People don't really want to know the truth. So anyway, like I was saying, we started using this technology to clone people, and people didn't actually like being cloned. So we kind of moved from that and say, well, they had a thing online back then. I don't know if you remember. They used to have a website that says these people are not real. They're not. It was like a whole website of all of these images of
Right.
people that was not real.
Right.
So I started utilizing that to create the clones. Voila, long story short, next thing you know, we put up our courses. Next thing you know, we're on the news and all of these things because it was like, hey, you have the first, you know, AI avatar led course platform. And like I tell you again, we did not at all set out to be that. It just kind of stumbled into our lap. And next thing we're on different shows, and that just kind of took me down the rabbit hole, as I like to call it. I went down the rabbit hole of saying, oh, we're on to something. And voila, today, as you can see, a lot of the things that I'm talking about right now are very common.
Well, you got. Let me put this comment on the screen for you. It's a supporter of yours. I'm sure that you shared the link with. It says, "What a timely topic! I am definitely watching at Dr. DeMario. Way to go, sir! Loving the podcast."
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Now, can you hear me good now?
Yes, sir.
Watch this. I seen the glitch. See, that's the one thing about being in tech. I'm looking at my screens and I see these glitches happen. I grab the iPhone. I'm talking from the microphone. It's crazy. But yes, let's keep it moving. But I appreciate that
Yes.
comment.
So you made the decision to join the United States Army. What was the driving decision? What was driving that decision? And what did you believe military service was going to give you that nothing else could at the moment in your life?
You know what? When you ask that question there, I have to answer from my mind, but my parents might say something different. Um, Really, back then, from my scenario, I'm born and raised in South Carolina. Really back then, you had probably had two options. You either worked at the what they called the mill, or you worked in some type of production, labor scenario, or you go off to college. Well, college was not in my future. So, then you're looking at the mill scenarios, and in my opinion, there wasn't necessarily that much growth far as career wise in that scenario. But just so happened, I had an uncle, or have an uncle rather, who was a recruiter. So, I was spending the summer with my uncle one time, and he started telling me all of this beautiful stuff. Next thing I know, long story short, before I come back home, I'm already signed up, getting ready to get shipped out and things of that nature. Even my mom was surprised, and it was like, hey, I'm going into the army. But it was really one of those things. I can't tell you that it was a plan. I can't tell you it was well thought out. It was just, it sounded great. it looked like it would take me somewhere, beyond where I was at, and I just joined. And the crazy thing was, I had only planned to be gone for 2 years. I was like, oh, I can do 2 years. But that 2 years turned into 10. And the 10 would have kept going, but I got hurt a little bit. So I decided to jump out and see what the rest of the world was up to.
Oh, wow. 10 years is a significant commitment to military service. What did those 10 years running logistics, leading people, building systems under conditions of real consequence teach you about discipline and leadership that you still carry with you every single day?
Oh, you see the hat, right? It's still on the head. The Army hat is still on the head because, far as the discipline scenario, I didn't know it then, but it just kind of get embedded into you. You carry yourself with a certain attitude of discipline. Your mindset is a little different. And then when you're working along, when I got up to be an NCO, and I started being able to, in lack of a better word, command teams and things of that nature, that kind of sticks with you as well. Because I always tell people the simplest thing, and I don't mean to make it sound dark, but the goal of the military is to do your job, and then when we go to war, we got a job to do. you
Mhm.
know so it takes a certain type of mentality to actually be able to look into an 18-year-old's eyes and build up his motivation or her motivation and confidence to actually step onto the battlefield. When you really think about it, I didn't think about it until I was out, and I said, wait a minute, we're convincing you to do something that we're even scared about our own selves. And you have to carry that face with you when you're standing out in front of them. So now fast forward till you get out into the world. Well, it's like a superpower almost. Because if you're willing to do that, particularly as a job or whatever the case may be, it's not too much on the outside that shake you in your boots, if you know what I mean.
Yes, yes. Um, when you think about the skills the Army built in you, systems thinking, planning under pressure, executing with precision and uncertain environments, which of those translated most directly and most powerfully into your work as CEO and AI strategist?
Well, it generally was the systems. The systems and how we used to operate is it still stays with me today, because in my job, I was in logistics. So everything was computerized. When you're going into the military, you don't even come from, you know, operating on computers and things of that nature. And you jump into this, and they got this big old screen, and you have to track this and that. Everything has to be organized, file cabinet, data send data systems and everything. So now, that's my number one thing. I can't even sit at my desk without organizing just the papers on my desk before I start working. So I know that all of those things that was embedded into me back then, they still live hardcore today. And really, when it comes to entrepreneurship, the discipline to actually keep going even when the pathway looks a little dark or cloudy.
So, when you think about the skills the Army built in you, system thinking, planning under pressure, um, how did you pivot? How did the pivot from soldier to freelance developer, um, is not a conventional path? Can you walk us through what that transition actually looked like, emotionally, practically, financially, and what it cost you to make it?
Ooh, let me tell you something, Charles. You throwing some good ones, man. You making me, hey, you making me have to sit up in my chair a little bit. But th- th- that that transition right there was actually another unplanned scenario. When I was at my 10-year mark in the military, and when you're at your 10-year mark, especially back then, they it was almost like if you re-enlist, what they call, you're going to re-enlist for the needs of the army, meaning your ID card no longer have an expiration date. You're just going to be going wherever they send you. So I'm looking at that. I'm actually hurt a little bit, so I have a profile per se, and I'm thinking about that. So I'm like, I can get out. I got all of these awards. I've been maintaining all of this information. When I get out, oh, I'm going to land me a nice job. But that wasn't the case. I never forget, I showed up for my first interview at a distribution center. I'm not even gonna put them on blast, but a distribution center. So warehousing at that time was my thing. I can run a warehouse. That was my whole job. So I show up, shoes shine, briefcase, all the awards and all of these things. And I laid those paper down on that desk, and I never forget that HR person looked at me like I was speaking Chinese. And none of that stuff, I realized right then, none of that stuff actually even mattered. They was like, you can work here, but you're going to start down here. And I was like, start, on the bottom? Like, can you at least give me middle tier? And that aggravated me so much that I just jumped into entrepreneurship. And I come from a father he's been an entrepreneur now over 40 something years. So in our household, entrepreneurship was kind of pushed a little bit more than anything else. So it was like the transition right then was like, oh, I'm never going to have someone kind of tell me where I need to be. I need to plant my own seeds of where I want to be. And I just jumped into it. And like I said, that's been over 20 something years now. And I'm still fighting it to this day.
As you think about that, when you talk about your road and your path, and how you said college was not the thing for you, but when you got out the military and being so successful in all the things and the work that you did, you were able to parlay your actual MOS into your life right now today.
Yes.
Can you tell our audience today, especially those that may be in some similar situation, if not the same, what did it take for you to finally put this together after you was putting the parts together? What made you, and how did you finally put that together and follow that path?
Oh man, really, that's a trial and error type of scenario. First, I believe that you have to take some time to recognize what skill sets you actually have. And as you know, in the entrepreneur world, we always say we throw it on the wall and see if it sticks. If it stick, we keep running with it. I would love to sit here and say that it's planned and it's structured, but it's not. But I started realizing that from my musicianship, because I didn't have any lessons for anything, but I can play a lot of songs. What mindset is that? That's creativeness. Also, is analytical. So I can learn how to play this. So in the military, we were taught to study. They just give you a manual. You read, and react. So when you start putting all that together, combined with the right tools, oh man, I'm on to something. So you mean tell me I just need to read this thing, understand it, and kind of, like I say, throw on the wall, see what sticks, and just keep moving down that pathway until we finally get somewhere. Because I would love to tell anyone that it was an overnight thing, but it wasn't. I went through, I've had a couple of businesses prior to Skilldora, but all of them had in their own right. They had a very powerful points. So, it was the roller coaster ride. Sometimes you killing it with the money. Sometimes you sitting there scratching your head saying, man, maybe I should have took that job that lady was asking. but at the end of the day, that drive that you just have to pull it out internally to just continuously go.
So, in your years as a freelance developer, working with small businesses, building websites, systems, and automations, at what exact moment did you look at the landscape and say, I see a gap that nobody is filling for these people, and I'm the one who's going to fill it?
I love that one. Love that question. Well, when we kind of tapped into this AI world, like I said, the rest of the world was talking about Bitcoin. We started off providing online trainings and certifications, talking about AI and AI prompting and all of these things that you are very common to, well, it's very common to your mindset today. It wasn't that common then. So we was really pushing the scenario almost like a Paul Revere type of moment. AI is coming, AI is coming, get this information, get this information. But the more and more, at the end of what, 22, that's when OpenAI dropped, and Chat GTP was out there and stuff like that. And then you started seeing this thing just morph. And the crazy thing about it, Charles, is the more I seen it build, the less I liked the direction that it was building in, if that makes sense. So with that, I really started thinking about, like, a lot of these companies and everything, they're building these AI tools and AI automations to somewhat disrupt the everyday workers, I'll say. I started thinking about, man, we got to change that narrative. So being that you already gave me the pat on the back for being the first in the US to do this thing, now I figure it was easier for me to get the pat on the back to say, hey, we need to train everybody. Everybody can do this. We need to put AI in the bucket that it's meant to be in, which is a tool. And since I didn't really see, and I'm starting to see it a little bit now, Charles, but since I didn't see that at the time in the circles that I was traveling on, I was like, hey, I'm going to ride that wave. I'm actually going to be the one to say, okay, I love this stuff, but we need to start thinking about this differently than the narratives that's being put out there to us today.
You hold a doctorate, and earning that credential as a Black man, as a veteran, as someone building a business simultaneously, carries a particular weight. What did the academic journey mean to you, and what did you have to sacrifice to complete it?
Well, that's a great one. So on the doctorate scenario, it's an honorary doctorate. The honorary doctorate was provided to me based on the work that I was already doing. So I always tell people, it's almost like, to me, like it was a pat on the back for a job well done. We're already in here. So as us providing these trainings and things in the marketplace across the landscapes of trying to get people certified in AI, helping them understand it, trying to get everybody, especially in our communities, trying to get them ahead of the curve. I got recognized for that, and that was a pleasure. But honestly, like I tell people, from this scenario, it was like it allowed me to step on the stage and you listen to me a little bit more. And that's exactly what I see it as. It's the reward to say, hey, that guy right there, he's been talking about this for a while. Now you put Dr. DeMario inside of it. Okay, the room actually will quiet down and listen, but I'm still preaching and saying the same thing that I've been doing for 4 years now. And I'm saying it even more today. That's why I'm here with you. I'm saying it, I'm ringing the alarm once again, saying, yo, I believe 2027, we got some new stuff to it that we're going to be better. We need to start paying attention.
I agree with you 500% on that, because this thing is moving at a pace that's unbelievable.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk a little bit about Skilldora Incorporated, your work as the CEO, the AI Academy, and the historic milestones. Skilldora was incorporated in 2021 and launched its AI courses in September of 22. Before most of the world had typed a single prompt into Chat GPT, what made you confident enough to build an AI Academy for the public before AI was a public conversation?
Oh, with that, it was really geared off of what we had accomplished. I just told you that, in the beginning, I was on my musician journey. I was even to this day, I still daydream about being that guy. And, and once we had a lot of accolades behind it, I really started saying, ooh, this is something that you, and you can learn too. We could all ride on this wave. And it was almost like you found a secret that you could share with people to get ahead of what was going on then. And that's when we really wanted people to understand it. And then the more and more I really got into I say the circles, into rooms that I normally wouldn't be in, if you understand what I'm saying there, I started hearing the information and the future of where the stuff was going, and I really was like, "Oh, we have to do this right here." So, during that time, my wife used to put together, because from her training scenario, she would put together these nice curriculums based on the information that we had, and we just, wanted everybody to become certified in it. So we had the CPT accredited, and we wanted that to be your new skill. So Skilldora, really, in Greek, Dora means gift. So we places as we're giving you a skill as a gift to get ahead. And I'll be honest with you though, Charles, those first couple of years, oh, we found out we had to debunk a whole lot of things before we could just get people into AI. We we even to this day, I say I take the punches. I will stand on your stage and let everybody, I always say, with the funny say, I say punch me in my throat for what I'm saying.
Right.
But at the same time, I really want you to pay attention. And we were there back then. We are still pushing the same narratives today. Not only are we will provide the training, we will talk with you. If you don't know how to do it, we got a dev team. We'll help you build it, the whole 9 yards, just so you can actually compete in today's market, whether that's in the workforce or whether you have a small business.
Wow. So, as you think about that and how you guys have got yourself set up, and you're basically foundational sound with your teams doing various things. As you guys actually work and teach these folk that are trying to come into the AI arena, what are some of the things that you kind of like get them on board of understanding about AI in general, how it functions, and what that means?
Oh, that's beautiful. The first thing is, I debunk whatever thoughts that you might have about AI. We first have to work on that, because I have heard it all. I've heard it from everything from AI being demonic, AI taking over the world, blah 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 blah, replacing people. I've heard it all, and you know what? I'm not here to combat those statements, but what I'm here to say is, let's break down the word in the simplest form: artificial intelligence. Artificial. Our common sense mind say artificial. Okay, that ain't real. Let me learn more about that. Once I get you thinking about this is artificial intelligence, you are the real intelligence. Don't get it twisted because it seems like it moves so fast. It can just, in layman's term, it can just research and bring it back to you way faster than you can. That's it. So now it's a tool. So now that you understand, oh, this is a tool. It's the microwave of my lifetime. Now let me see what I can do with this tool. So we start going down little simple paths like the large language models, OpenAI. Claude is my favorite. So, I started teaching you, look at what you can do. Look at what you could create. And next thing you know, I'm telling you, Charles, I get them about 2 days after I put them on that pathway. Then they're hitting me back, telling me, look at what I built. Wow. I think I shared with you when we was talking before. I had a pastor who told me straight up, I would never use AI. He has 7 books out there. He was like, he was really adamant about, I would never use that tool. Now he has an AI clone that you can talk to, that gives you information from a collection of his 7 books. It's named after him. And we laugh about that to this day. Him and we laugh at it. I was like, you remember what you said? And usually when I'm doing any talks, when I'm on stages or whatever the case may be, one of the first questions I ask is how many people utilize an AI tool at least twice a week. And I look at the room to see how many hands are not raised, how many hands are down. And those are the people that I love talking to, because I want you to understand that you might be missing out on some power that you don't know.
Right.
And then at the end of the day, If you don't like it, cut your computer off. It can't jump out at you. You know, you just cut it off.
You notice what a lot of folks are thinking when they call it evil. Say, "Oh, this is AI coming through the computer."
Yeah, hey, you know, the crazy thing about it is I always talk about how the media positions when they talk about AI. They always say, 15,000 jobs lost because of AI, and they put that period behind AI. And people like, oh, AI is taking over my job. Well, I like to create an argument and say, well, I think that sentence is a little bit longer than that. I think that sentence is 15,000 people got laid off because of 150 people who understood how to use AI. That's where I like to look at it, because I know for a fact that they're not, there's automation, people that understand automation. Of course, automation can do the repetitive tasks without too many humans, but most of the time they are hiring people who just understands how to use the tools. I was looking up, think I got over my notebook. I always read the latest news. This morning I just read that the National Bureau of Economic Research estimated that about 500,000 jobs will be impacted by AI by 2026. What they're seeing is that a 5-person team can handle the workload of 20. So I look at that and I tell people from the business perspective, I was like, you can't be mad at the corporations. Really, real talk. You can't be mad at them. If they can downsize to a lower staff and get 10 times more work done, they're going to do that. They're profit driven. But I would like to say, instead of those 5 people doing the work of 20, I like to think about it. What if we trained all 20 people to do the work of 100 and keep multiplying? What would we look like then? Instead of decreasing, why don't we scale?
Right.
That's what my narrative come in. Train the humans, man. If everybody had this superpower, man, you know how much we could accomplish?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. And let me ask you this, because the thing I think is so insightful, especially for the audience, I can say for myself after we had our conversation, is that for one thing, I am so proud and honored, for one, to be connected to you, somebody that looks like me, that's delving, developing, and working through this AI situation to help people that look like us, especially, but is what you do for your business. Can you tell us at this point, how do you feel knowing that you are one of a select number of people that look like you, that's making great strides with AI?
Yeah, watch it. Watch this. Charles, that's going to have to be a loaded question to me. You know why?
I said,
We still are fighting for the recognition, I would say,
right.
of looking like us in this space.
Yes.
We go through that every day, all the time. You have to think, I always tell people, in all transparency, I was in my late 40s when we discovered, this AI boom. So, a lot of times when you come up to people and you start talking about when your business name kind of supersedes you and people meet you and they're like, oh, you work for the company? No, we created it. Then it goes into, what is your credential? God. I don't have an answer for you. That it's like my wife and we sat in the house. I remember our first employees when we started developing, and I still had this picture. It was our kids. We turned our living room into like a conference room with tables, and the kids have laptops, and we sit up there with a whiteboard, and we ran them through to try to get this development out fast. We were just teaching them what to do, and just following our own thought process on it. So. And to get it to today, without putting people on blast, because I'm a military guy. I can give it to you straight, no chaser sometimes. But we are still not notarized in the particular fashion. I used to tell people, I was like, I'm not knocking the companies that came out with the AI avatars. I'm pretty sure this stuff has been in works for years. But you haven't debunked that we were the first. We didn't say it. We didn't come out screaming it. The news told us. So if you can't debunk that, then I think that is some more credit that we need to have.
Exactly.
If you know what I mean. And maybe I'm talking crazy, but I was like, we didn't know that we were the first. Of course we didn't. We stumbled into this game. So once we got it, and we was on the shows and we was in the press releases and on the news in the newspapers and things like that. Now I'm sitting here, 4 years later, I'm sitting here like, ain't it something else we should have got? I'm not looking for, I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm just saying, like, doesn't that mean something in the world that's heavily driven by AI and automation and avatars today?
It should. It should. But that's how a lot of people get when they want to get ugly about that. But I just thought that I wanted to just bring that to the light, because there's so many people that do so many things, and I understand, as you mentioned before, is that credit and recognition for a lot of people just don't happen the way it should.
Yes.
And so this is where this amplification come in, because I'm so proud again, that we can have you here with us to not only talk about this first, but all this great stuff that you guys are doing in this field.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You made the extraordinary decision to partner with DID and deliver your courses through AI Digital Human Instructors, making Skilldora the first institution in the United States to do so. Where did that idea come from, and what was the public's reaction when they first experienced it?
Well, going back to the initial story, would I say that it all stemmed from a text message from my wife. She know I'm a nerd most of the time looking at stuff. So DID, they were the company out in Israel that had the facial recognition technology. Like I said, we licensed the software, even to the point to where even DID started offering the AI avatars as a subscription. This wasn't being done yet. So, like I said, we made some light bulbs come off and go on in a lot of people's heads. But the public's reaction, it's funny. When we first came out with the stuff that we were doing, you have to imagine that. You have to go back to 2021, 2022, when I can make a picture of you start talking. Think about that. It was people like, nah, I'm not happy. No, I'm not doing that. So I was so happy. I was so happy when ChatGTP came out. Oh my goodness. Because we have been going around before that. When ChatGTP dropped it in November of 2022, I was so excited because now they got more money to market and make people feel comfortable with AI tools. And then next thing you know, by the time we get into 2023, people are like, what's that thing you was talking about? Oh yeah. So I was so glad to not be fighting those battles, because like I say, you showing people, how they can just be saying stuff online without them actually having to say it. We thought we was doing something special, but the world thought like, oh no. So now you got to think we're a black couple. We have brought in a technology that wasn't even into the United States yet. We have altered it to utilize it in AI, and we're going around telling everybody they should do this. Oh man, you already know they wasn't trying to hear us like that.
Exactly.
So, like I say, that's why I tell you to this day, I'm that guy. I can take you to punches because I done heard it all. My first book. I have a friend who's an archbishop. My first book out there was AI is Not God. That was my first book, and that was simply I got with Archbishop to help me write this book based on biblical base and scriptures and things of that nature combined with technology, just so I would have like a shield. Do you remember Captain America back in the day had the shield? Just so when you start talking that stuff to me, I can say, here's this book. I never said it was, I'm not trying to push the devil on you or whatever the case may be. Here's this book that says, hey, all things are good that are created under the eyes of God. Hey, I got a friend, he's an archbishop. He co-signed it with me, like, lay off me. I'm not the guy. But once OpenAI came in and then everybody else started following suit, look at where we're at today, man. You cannot you can't turn to any station on your television without someone saying something about AI.
Yep.
So I pat myself on the back on that. I was like, yo, we were really trying to tell you something for real.
Yes.
Just imagine if about 500 people would have listened to us in early 2022 and we've been banding together building some stuff, man. Oh my goodness. Man, you be talking, I'd be on Mars right about now, because we'd be done blew up some stuff. We've been good.
So in May of 23, Skilldora received CPD Standards Office accreditation from the United Kingdom, a world first for AI courses of this kind. For viewers who aren't familiar with the CPD accreditation means, explain why it matters and what it signals about the quality and credibility of what you've built. Can you tell us about this accreditation as to what it means and how this actually turned everything and how you guys actually grew from this?
Well, in the basic form, what CPD really does is they provide, I'll say that they approve or disapprove curriculums and trainings especially for in the workforce development sectors of people who can earn credits for taking such courses. In other words, when when you're at your job, when you're taking professional development courses to enhance your skill set, you get points for that. So we became the first to join that subset of all the other accredited courses out there. We became the first to offer the AI courses, but that's taught by AI digital humans. So, before, that's a course like, you're probably looking at some Zoom videos or YouTube videos, whatever the case may be. And we joined the ranks of that. But we also didn't stop there. We became with the project management, the PDUs, you could get PDUs credits. You could get CLEs when you was in the state of North and South in Georgia, Carolinas. Anytime you deal with going through the bar association and you or a lawyer, whatever, you could get CLEs for taking out courses. So we tried to make it a benefit, not just so you can learn about AI, but it actually could increase, your learnings within inside of your job role, getting those points. But when we came CPD accredited, because the company is based out of London, once again, here we go again. There has never been any types of trainings out there in the world that was taught by non-human people. You're looking at the person, but that person ain't real. So here we go in the headlines again. We're the first globally to become credited with courses taught by non-human instructors, digital humans. So like I said again, I think somebody owe me a check, man. You're gonna make me go out there and really think about this thing for a second. But and I really have to give a shout out to my wife on that part. She actually took us down that path to get us approved and things like that. If it was up to me, I probably wouldn't have pushed the envelope as much, but she was on that. And once we got it, like I said, we was in the news again. So now we have a double whammy. Now, I always have to bring it back. We got a double whammy coming from the guy that's really just a musician.
Okay.
So when I'm trying to empower people, I always bring it back to where I started, because I really just believe that if you gain this knowledge, this information, it's no telling what you do. We're living proof of that every day. So I know I took it down the dirt road on you right there, but that's why I have passion on it.
Well, no, you're good actually because I think as for those especially that are challenged in this field, this arena, I think as you detailedly as you explain that in that detail, I think that kind of helps a whole lot because then it not only at eases what you're skeptical about, but it also tells you like this is how it works and this is what it looks like. And
Yes,
see,
sir.
no one else could do that better than yourself because you've already doing it, you've already done it, and now you're making it better as you enhance and go forward. This is what I want our people to actually try to get some understanding because I really want them to have the opportunity to reach out to you to get more of that understanding.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And if I could, Charles, I just want to add in, the beautiful part of the places that we as people are sitting right now, there is no, it's coming, and it's in the work, but there's no artificial intelligence degree.
Right.
Think about that. They're working on it, but technology is moving so fast. By the time you go through school to get that degree, it'll be done changed by the time you get out. There's no degree. What that should tell you is that the skill set that you learned today, you on par with everybody else.
Yep.
When have we ever seen that? That is crazy to me.
Right. But that makes a lot of sense. And the reason why I think that I say that makes a lot of sense is because, for those that, I think when you talk about schools trying to come up with the curriculum to get this degree, now, not trying to be funny, but now I'm just going to have to put it out there plainly. They're not trying to do that unless they want to charge you $5 million. And the reason why they want to do that is because what happens is these very same tools, as you mentioned earlier, they're already here for you for the picking. You just have to make the decision if you want to do this or not. What they're trying to certify, they can come to you and get that degree. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious. We can come to you and get that degree because you've already started the whole floor plan anyway.
And get further faster. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, this thing
Yeah.
ain't hard. I had a class because I do private one-on-ones, whatever the case may be, with a small group. We probably went through stuff for maybe 3 hours.
Right.
Maybe 3 hours.
Right.
I can tell you that the people that was in the class, they're already building today. 3 hours. I just need to open up your mind. Just open up your mind. You are creative. You are smart. You can do this. And if you, the beautiful thing about it, and if you don't know how to use, the large language models, what everybody's calling AI because they put it under a blanket term anyway, but it's just large language models, chat windows and prompting. If you don't know how to use the tool, ask the tool. This is the craziest thing. Ask the tool, say, I'm new. I don't know how to use you yet. I'm talking about people know that I can't even type half the time. So it doesn't care if you misspell the word. And if you really don't like to type, cut on the microphone and say, I'm new. I don't know how to use you yet. What can you do based on blah, blah, blah? Tell it about yourself. Tell it about your business. Start talking like you would be sitting at a picnic talking to a person at the table. And you will be surprised. It will tell you exactly what you need to know to work with it better.
Yes. Ain't that something?
That is crazy to me. The fact that it will tell you how to what, and I'm gonna put the little caveat. It will tell you how to do something, build something to make money off of that something. It will tell you how to work together. Man, like I say again, I had to calm down a bit, but that is the whole mindset that I want everybody to know because in my opinion, nobody's coming to save you.
Right.
If you look around, it looks like it's a lot of deletion and a lot of additions going on. Think about it.
Right.
And there's more stuff on the table. So we have to change, even if it's not with us. Our target audience is people who are 45 and older.
Yes.
Being the reason because you already been through some changes and maybe you just tired. You don't want to learn a new thing. Come and talk to us. We break this thing down to the simplest form and then help you get started. But at the same time, we need to learn it, because if you have children or you have grandchildren, guess what? They're going to start coming asking you some questions that you really don't even have no information from. You don't even want to be in that position. Granddad, how do I do this with my AI? You don't want to be in that position to act like you don't know.
See, but so for you guys, you got over 1,000 leaders trained, over 500 AI certifications issued, 17 systems shipped. What does that number actually represent to you, not as a metric, but as a human being who built this from scratch?
It's a beautiful thing. For every person who has listened to anything that we had to say, who has taken any courses, and see, when we giving those metrics, a lot of our programs are like behind the wall of some HBCUs. They have all of our courses, like urban leagues. They got courses from. It's collectively, it's a lot of work being done out there. So for every person that who has gained a certification from Skilldora, and every person who has trusted us to develop something for them, because we're creatives, we're not textbook. um it's just a beautiful thing. We're continuously trying to gain more market share, not because we are driven by profits. We are driven by people. We really want everybody to get it, man. Even the things that you might invest with Skilldora. I like to joke with my team and call us the Walmarts, because we have the rollback guy. We're gonna make sure that we find some type of way to make it work with you. It's not profit driven, it's people driven. So you come to us and we like to, how can we help you, advance? Now I will say this right here. Um, from our perspective, we're not a software company. We are a company that help you save money on your expenses with all this other stuff that you might have going on. You're paying a lot of money out, as well as we help you move faster by making systems that help you multiply what you are doing today. So just so happen we use AI tools and automation to do that. But at the end of the day, we're just wanting to see how far you can run and how fast you can get there.
Mm. So let's move over to talk more about your authorship, talking techish, and platform building. You wrote 4 books about artificial intelligence, a subject where most authors are writing for people who already have a technical foundation. What compelled you specifically to write for the person who feels behind, overlooked, or convinced that AI is not for them?
That's a great question. At the end of the day, it's really trying to capitalize on all verticals that I can to reach you. You might not see me on the stage. You might not even know of the company. We're not on every social media platform, so I might miss you there. So I need to put this information in a book too, so you can get it there. Most of the time when I'm out and about, and my wife would tell you this, I'll have a stack of books in the car or whatever, and I would give them away. I would just give them away to the audience. Just give them away. I think
Oh, wow.
this last run, I think we gave away almost 200 books so far. So I just give them away. People say, "How much did it cost?" Here, just take it. Only thing I ask that you actually read it. But I had to, with this last book, Train the Human, Deploy the AI. That's really a personal book to me, because I stopped trying to talk technical, and I really just started talking to you, just like I'm talking to you. I just really started with the same mentality. Like, I just want you to read that. It You can give that book to probably a 15-year-old, and they can gain value out of it. And that's where all of the books prior to this came to. Because some of them, they're good books, but man, I had an uncle one time, man. He read he read one of my book called Thrive. He read it, but he came back and he said some of those words in there. I never forget. He looked at me like, I didn't know what some of those words mean. And I said, oh, I can't do that. He was in his, late 60s. And I was like, oh, I can't do that. I need to write in just basic plain English, but still get the point across. And that's where we
Right. Okay. Well, I think when as we talk about that one thing that you talked about in the beginning, train the human, deploy the AI, your flagship book, unpack that title for our audience and what does it mean in practice? Why is it governing framework for your entire enterprise? And what do you want the reader to walk away able to do that they couldn't do before?
Oh, that's a great one. At the end of the day, train the human. I told you all the narratives now are talking about the tools, the downsizing, the job loss, the whole 9 yards. You name it, they're talking about it. And like I say, I believe that we should collectively just understand the tools as the tool is. So empower each other. Everybody train the human. So even for the major corporations that's out there, I just believe that they should put the focus on their employees, their teams. They should put the focus on telling them, hey, you could do this. Hey, let's all do this. Let's create some trainings around for everybody and let's deploy the AI. And the reason that narrative sticks today is because if you really pay attention in the media, it's all about training the AI. It's
Yes.
training the AI, and I think they're deploying the humans back to home, without jobs. We need to change that, and it's going to be important for us down the road, I believe, as a collective, as a unit. So my goal has always been train the human, deploy the AI, and it's only because of my own experience. I know that what type of person I am now that I understand this technology. I didn't understand it before. I learned just like the next person can learn, and I see how advanced it has gotten me. It's so crazy. I see it myself. So I'm like, can we give this superpower to everyone? And that's just deploy the AI. In other words, the AI is just a tool. It's not taking over. It's not running up in your house like a robot. It's just a tool. Let's just deploy it. And guess what happens? Even if the tool don't do what we needed to do or is going kind of crazy, we know how to combat the tool, if you know what I'm saying. It's like,
Yes.
you can't fight against even when they're doing the simplest things, as you don't know, a lot of times you don't know what video is real, what video is fake. If you just commonly watching stuff, they can have any video up there. It could come across the news and you just gonna believe it. Me, I'm looking at the eyes, I'm looking at the nose, I'm looking at how the mouth moves. Do it have 6 fingers on one hand? Do it have five on the other? It's gonna be a flaw in there that you can tell that, oh, shouldn't trust that. Or at the end of the day, think about all the people who's getting these calls. You see it on the news all the time. They're getting these calls acting like the kids have been kidnapped, and these people are sending money based on this call because they like, it sounded like my daughter. Well, I was like, why don't you hang up the phone and then call your daughter right back? Just like do it really fast, Why don't you do that? And if you'd be surprised, your daughter probably sitting there making a sandwich, and you just got called by AI. But if you're not thinking about that, if you're putting these tools and you're not thinking advanced technology is there yet, oh my goodness. I call it the Hunger Games personally. I was like, if you ever
Yep.
seen the Hunger Games, I say, believe it or not, it's gonna be the have and the have nots, or those who understand and those who don't. And that's gonna be a big, you're gonna actually see that divide after a while. That's my opinion. But to the point, Charles, I think I shared with you. I say, they're talking about the US is in a race against China in the AR world. So, I started researching China, and I found a place in China that operates basically by iPhones, the whole city. So, you know what I told the wife? I said, we going there. We are going there next year. We're going there because come to find out, you have to actually get a guide or something because they have the facial recognition technology in stores. So you can't just walk into a store. It needs to be somebody who, the store, the technology recognize, the fingerprints they recognize. Your food get dropped off by drones. Your car, of course, is those Waymo type cars, that picking you up. Your hotel is even AI. So, man, I want to go there not because I'm trying to just experience the technology. I want to know what the U.S. is trying to do before they do it. I want to experience myself. So when this stuff starts happening, I was like, yeah, I already know what this looks like. you know.
AI is not God is, I think, one of the most culturally specific and necessary books written on artificial intelligence. Who exactly is this book for? What made you write it for pastors and ministry leaders specifically? And how has it been received in faith communities?
Great question. Well, the book is for exactly who you said right there in that statement. The book was really geared towards pastors and spiritual leaders. Reason being, during that time, and I always say I'm not gonna put nobody on blast, but it was some pastors out there with large congregations and mega churches that was really getting the people to think on the opposite side of advanced technology. And like I say, I'm not here to debate that scenario. But what I am saying that I used to challenge, I say, well, there's some people in that congregation that has jobs, and then that job comes and tell them that we're going to be implementing AI. Now you got this person believing that this is a demonic. Now that person going to leave that job based on your spiritual guidance, and now there it's a trickle down effect. The family's going to have problems, you know. So we need to combat this a little different way. We need to say that AI is not God. In other words, when I say it's not God, God is in control. AI is not going to take over you. It's not going to take over all the stuff. Let's put it into concept. Let's even break it down scripturally. That's why I told you I have a good friend who's an archbishop. We had many conversations on it. I found out even myself. I learned myself that the word technology came from a spiritual word in the biblical principles called technon. You know,
Wow.
so and he broke a whole thing down to me on how what we see as digital technology today. Well, go back in your Bible or whatever you read that motivates you spiritually. You're going to find something in there that would be considered technology. It just don't look like it is today. When they first created the wheel, that was technology, even though it was made out of rocks. When they figured out how to make fire out of sticks or rocks, that was technology. You know,
Yeah.
it's the evolution of stuff. So today we're thinking that this computerized mechanism is something brand new. Nah. AI has actually been around since before the 1950s.
Yes.
You already been utilizing it for a long time. Now it's just in your face. So when we say AI is not God, let's take away the spiritual realm of advanced technology. I understand that that's there. I'm not taking nothing away from that scenario. I get it. But let's not let that be the reason that you want to advance forward because of the scenario. So let's give you some supporting scriptures. And I'll say this in the end. I used to always back then when people hit me up with some of these terms, I would say, well, think about a knife. A simple knife. Just think, let's just go really basic. You got this great knife in your kitchen and it cuts the best piece of cake because it's good. It sliced that ham, it sliced that turkey. It is good. Get that knife to the wrong person, he can go out there and do some damage.
Yep.
Is it the knife fault? you know, if you learn how to use the knife properly, you won't cut yourself. That's all I'm saying. You know,
Right.
I try to keep it very, light and make you think in a different way, saying, hey, it's just a tool, man. And if it doesn't work for you, shut it off. But if you go look around, you'll see that a lot of people, especially younger people, that's why I'm talking to my 45 plus people, these younger people, man, they're getting it. These cats out here making, they learning to do stuff on using just a LLM, create a little business, and now they're doing $100,000 a year in their teens,
Mhm.
and they still sitting in the bedroom. We sitting here scratching our heads trying to, what am I going to do next? Man, you better jump on this boat while you can. That's all. I'll say it like that.
Yeah. Um, Thrive AI and understanding artificial intelligence. Fill different spaces in the bookshelf. For a potential reader deciding which of your four books to start with, how would you describe the unique value and intended audience of each?
Yes. Okay. Well, I'll tell anybody that if they want to read a book today from me, I will always go back to Train the Human. It's a collective, really, um, of everything I have talked about, except for AI is not God. AI is not God really came out for us to help support the narrative, for us to start getting beat down for creating a tool that, people felt some type of way. So we came out with that AI is not God, and we started speaking on that. Then from there, I have a book that's just on understanding artificial intelligence, which was the same narrative that went along with the certification courses. And then I have a book called Thrive. That was a framework to help with AI implementation. Basically, it was broken down technical. Like I told you before, I came out with a technical aspect. So then understanding the Thrive framework and stuff, I was like, okay, you still not getting it. So if you see how I'm operating, I keep pressing the narrative over based on how people respond. If I think you're not getting it, now it's train the human deployed AI. Tomorrow it could be the ABCs of artificial intelligence. If I had to take it a step down lower to reach you, I'm going to do that. But if you're really um, on the fence, or if you're in the initial stages of understanding artificial intelligence, train the human, deploy the AI, because I do go through a process in there where I once again I'm trying to change your mindset up. Then towards the middle of the book, we start working into you working in with a little tool, and by the end, it's like, hey, it's almost like you graduated. So you know, I sneak it in on you. So, the book is maybe an hour and a half read. But if you go through from the front page to the end, you should be producing a tool by the end.
So let's talk about Talking Techish. Your weekly podcast every Friday was born from a specific philosophy. What is that philosophy? Who is your ideal listener? And what makes it different from the hundreds of other AI podcasts that have flooded the market?
That's a great question. And you know what? In the honest talk, well, for people that go look at, like, I know I've been slipping on my weekly stuff. We're actually doing some amazing things that we're coming out with on the last quarter. So I hadn't been on as much. But the whole narrative was, I have a lot of conversations in private, and I wanted to bring them to the forefront. Like when I tell you about Archbishop's on what he taught me, we were on the phone one day and I said, "Oh, man, this is getting good. Let's cut on the camera." Next thing you know, we're talking. So talking tech-ish, meaning that I like to break things down and bring on people to bring it down to the basic understanding of advanced technology. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of people out there talking about, especially now, on how to do this, how to do that. But what we're not doing is just having basic conversations with everyday people. A lot of the people that I like to bring onto the podcast are the people that was the naysayer before, and then what they're doing now.
Okay, okay.
So that's who, most of the time, if you see a person on Talking Techish, they probably have been a client of ours, or they're someone that I just found to be very interesting in their transformation. So we're never going to go, displaying you with products and how to build this. That's just not my thing. But I'm always going to bring in somebody that could have been your neighbor down the street, that now he knows how to do something with AI and he learned some tools. So let's have a conversation, just like we're doing here today. This is the best style that I like to operate with Talking Techish. So the reason that we call it Talking Techish, because yeah, we're in tech, but let's talk about everything. Let's talk about some of these executive orders that the administration is throwing out there around AI. Let's talk about how I really feel.
Yeah.
Without getting it, thrown off the platform. But let's open your eyes to why there are so many data centers and fiber optic cables coming into your neighborhood. Let's talk about it.
Boy, see, yeah, you see, that's the real talk. That is the real talk. Um, let's move over to your Black History influences, your legacy, and the future. When we chatted, you told me that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Madam C.J. Walker, Malcolm X, and Huey Newton were the most influential people in your life and career.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is among the most significant historical influences. What is it specifically in King's philosophy and his method, beyond the speeches and the marches, that speaks the most directly to your own mission in AI education and technology access?
Oh, that's good. Well, I will come from a narrative that can resonate with everyone. It's highly popularized as "I have a dream." I have a dream speech. Um, he had this foresight on what things could look like or what they were going to look like, provided that you did a thing. You know, the marches, everything. I resonate with that particularly because I'm looking at stuff and I can almost, not to take any credit away from that scenario, I can almost say, hey, this dream that I got as well is that we need to approach this. And I'm talking to a certain community here. This might not be a worldwide thing, but we need to pay attention here. Just like back in those the civil rights movements and things of that nature, you might not think that we need to have a type of movement now, but huh, let's just I always have to put the disclaimer on. It's my opinion, but if the stats are already out about our community on how far behind in technology and the wealth that we're going to be, if the stats are already out and it hasn't happened yet, that we need to rally back up and start really moving in that direction.
Making it happen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
So, Madam C.J. Walker started with $1.25, a formula she mixed with her own hands and a conviction that overlooked people deserved better tools. How does her story resonate with Skilldora's journey, and what does her legacy teach you about the relationship between tool building and community empowerment?
Oh, I love how you phrase that. But it really is. You break it down to the narrative, the mixture. I just told you that we didn't come out of Ivy League schools and MITs and incubators and things of this nature to develop. This was actually a scenario that developed with me and my wife in the living room, talking, being creative and curious to actually build that into a business model and just keep growing it. You know, the CJ Madam CJ Walker story, especially the entrepreneurship journey, that's so motivating. But the narrative is that we kind of started off saying this was for the minority community. We came down that road, and then, as you know, stuff happened in our government system where you couldn't say certain terms anymore, but the mission is still the same. There's a certain population that we really wanted to empower with this new information, and that's Madam CJ Walker. That storyline resonates wholeheartedly because if you take if you take her hair products and just make it the AI tool, it's the same story to me.
Yes. Yeah, but I think just this is just my opinion. See, so maybe this is where you'll probably have to help me to understand a little bit better. But I think when you mention that and you say it's just it's the same story, I think the different feel about that is from the artificial intelligence give you more of a realization of actually being in that moment, which should help you that much more to understand what you're actually getting into and what you can do and should do. So I see that as a positive, in other words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, with Madam C.J. Walker, she created a whole lot of other entrepreneurs
Yes, you did.
just from that product. The symbiotic relationship gave you something that wasn't out there that people couldn't duplicate yet to
Yep.
help you advance yourself.
It was
Hey,
especially that pressing cone.
oh yeah. Still to this day, variations of. You better run with it before someone else's will. I'll tell you that right now. But yeah.
Malcolm X taught himself in prison, copying the dictionary by hand, reading philosophy and by lamplight, and declared that education is the passport to the future. As an author, an educator, and an AI strategist, what does his philosophy of self mastery and radical self education mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, with that, I believe you answered the question for me inside of the question. Um, First of all, being self-study is big, and when I listen at the educational part, is your internal education. It's not institutionalized education. It's how you are perceiving this information and driving it forward. Now, when I have to mash them together, because even with Malcolm X and Huey, see, they had a different approach to how they wanted you to get that information. We're not going to talk dark here, but at the end of the day, you know, you had the nice way of here, the kumbaya ish way, like here, y'all come and get this information. After a while, we're gonna have to go rally in the streets and kind of get really down, down in the weeds with everything. And I love that how Malcolm X was really, as the more he learned, the more he went against the narratives that than what he first started out as. He went against the narratives and he kind of stood along and he was hardcore with it. I like to position myself like that. I'm that guy. I would stand up in the room and we can battle debate, I'll say, about what I think about where we're going compares to where you might fear that we might not go or things of that nature. We can have that narrative, but Malcolm X kind of gave it to you raw, no filter. Yeah, I love that part.
So Huey Newton built free breakfast programs, medical clinics, and legal aid centers, not waiting for the revolution to arrive before the people were fed and cared for. How does that community survival philosophy inform the way you think about AI as a tool of service rather than a product for the already privileged?
Well, the Huey scenario that I talk about, is the more the radical. Like we got to go out and fight for the narrative. We got to go fight for our positioning in this place. But my thoughts have always been, I'm not I'm not here trying to push something on you. I always tell people I stand on both sides of the fence when it comes to advanced technology. I'm on the yay, look at what we can do, and I'm on the whoa, look at what we can do. But either way it goes, we have too much of a subset of people inside of our community are who are bypassing this advancement. The school is not going to give it to you.
Right.
In some cases, the church is not going to give it to you. We're going to have to start formulating our own scenarios to help not just us who, like I say, 45 plus, but what about the next generation coming underneath us? If they're already counting you out, who's going to count you in? We're going to have to formulate some type of, I don't know what it looks like. I really don't. I wish I did. But we need to start having the talks and the conversations a little bit more. We need yeah, maybe we need to go have a nice breakfast with a side of AI on that scenario. Maybe we in our community centers, maybe we need to meet once a month or something to stay abreast of what's going on in technology. This thing is moving so fast, man. By the time you figure out one thing, they already got something else. And we're not going to even talk about the suggestion of the universal basic income payments, the UBIs. We're not going to talk about that. They already have a plan. Not saying it's going to work out, but they have a plan on how we just supposed to get set to the side and let the AI do all the work. Well, that's not good. That's not good for me. I don't know about anybody else, but we need to take all the approaches to this whole thing as we have learned from our ancestors and our history, and we need to treat our communities in the same fashion to get the information across.
Final question. And I want you to answer this without filters.
Uh-oh.
What do you want the world, every viewer of changing trends in times, every potential student, every potential partner, every skeptic, every community leader who has been waiting for permission to know about Dr. DeMario Mcllwain Skilldora and the mission that drives everything you do?
Oh, unfiltered. Believe it or not, the pathway that I'm on, I didn't go seeking this pathway. This pathway kind of landed on me. I always make the joke and say God must knew I was crazy enough to believe it and continuously run with it without any instructions. But I really, the more and more we have been in this space, the more and more I am, lack of a better word, I'm a little fearful also.
Okay.
Fearful in this tech space because it I always say I hope that the narratives that I read and the things that I watch, I hope that all the stuff that the Elon Musk and all of these cats are saying of the world, I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that is very untrue, but it doesn't look like it's untrue. So what I want you to know about me is that I'm that person that the tool is a tool. Yes, we can teach you how to build the tools, and we're not trying to be the world's top tool builders. What we are trying to be is the world's top place where you can come to and get some education at a level that you understand it so you can get further faster. That's what we're passionate about. Give us a call. You can go onto the website today, myskilldora.com. You can click a free call. Me or one of my team members will talk to you for at least 15 minutes, answer questions, take you down a pathway. If you want to build something, great. But first, let's open up your mind of possibilities. A lot of times on our discovery calls, and the discovery call is when you have booked beyond the time of just the free 15 minutes. A lot of times when we're on the discovery call with a business owner, the first thing I tell them is dare to dream. Daydream with me. Let's daydream. It don't even exist yet. You want to build this in your business? It doesn't even exist yet. Let's daydream. Let's have some fun. And I just want people to know that in this world of advanced technology, is probably one of the first times that you could actually do just that. You can daydream and have something created. I do it all the time. Man, I have these AI tools working for me, and I come up with the craziest thing, and we build it all the way. And I'd be like, man, I didn't even know that would work. And it is crazy. It's crazy on how advanced these things are. And everybody knows me. I have an AI assistant. His name is Ethan. You cannot tell me Ethan doesn't live down the house in a house down the street and as a remote worker. Ethan does everything for me. My daily meetings, a whole lot of stuff. Man, this is where we at now. So to know me unfiltered is to know that if I run up on you at a gas station, and I do this, I'll be at a gas station and you look at me twice, I'm probably gonna hand you a book or I'm gonna start this conversation. If you behind the counter at a store, and I'm talking to our community, my wife know I would turn around and go back in the restaurant and hand a book or a card to a waiter. And I just say one simple thing. I say, call me. And now most of the time I say, we met at QT or something, the stores down here. I say, email me and put QT in the subject line so I know where I met you. I'm really trying to help us get somewhere. And I'm just one teeny piece of the puzzle because I'm hoping other people just join me. I need help out here in these streets, as they say. So I hope people just join me and let's change this narrative on what they are already predicting about us now.
So in conclusion, do you have any words of wisdom and encouragement that you'd like to leave for our audience? Tell them how to connect with you via social media, your website, how to get your books, or any of those good things you'd like for them to know.
Oh yes. Well, to sum all of that up, you can just visit myskilldora.com, skilldora.com. It's a lot of information there. And the one thing that I always like to leave people with is really simple. When it comes to utilizing any type of tool that you see that they come out with, start with one thing, and I guarantee you'll be successful. Be curious. Just be curious. Read it, play around with it, see what it can do for you. Be curious. My curiosity has gotten us a lot of places in the last couple of years, just for me being curious. Y'all remember that show back in the day, Curious George? Yeah, you'd be surprised where your curiosity would get you nowadays, combined with some technology help.
Well, so in closing, I'm going to close with another closing monologue. But in the process of closing, do you have a couple of minutes to stick around after I close the show?
Sure thing.
I want to thank each and every individual that's been here to watch the show today. I hope you guys have gotten some knowledge and some ideas as to what AI is, what AI is not. To learn more, I am going to say if you really want to know, and just as the doctor here, the great Dr. Mcllwain just said, be curious. If you are curious, reach out. Ask the questions to learn more, because I'm sure that'll do you a lot of good. For those of you that are watching in particular on our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed and enabled all notifications, I am asking if you would please support us by subscribing to the channels and enabling all notifications. You will be able to get the notifications when the shows are going to go live and you click in and you watch, but you will also be able to go back on the channels and you'll be able to watch each and every episode that our great professionals that have been here have done many things to build communities and are giving you lots and lots of seeds in order to plant, grow, and connect your community to be that much better. So in closing, let me say this. Tonight, I had the privilege of sitting across from a man who is doing something genuinely rare in the world of artificial intelligence. Not rare because technology is rare. The technology is everywhere now. It's rare because the perspective is rare. The perspective of a soldier who learned in 10 years of military service that the most important systems are the ones built to hold up under pressure and to serve the mission with integrity. The perspective of a husband who built his life's work alongside the woman who is his equal in every way and his partner in the fullest sense. The perspective of a Black man in Fort Mill, South Carolina, not Silicon Valley, not Cambridge, not the Beltway, who looked at the most consequential technology revolution in human history and made a decision. his community was not going to be left behind. Not because someone gave him permission, not because the industry invited him in, but because he built the door himself. There are several things I want you to hold on to from this conversation. The first is this: AI is a tool, an astonishing, world-altering, civilization-reshaping tool, but still a tool. And like every tool in history, its impact is determined entirely by who holds it and what they intend to do with it. The communities invest in human preparation that train the human before they deploy the AI, are the communities that will extract value from this moment. The communities that wait, that are skeptical, that tell themselves the future is for someone else, they will absorb the disruption without sharing in the benefit. That is not destiny. That is a choice. The second thing I want you to hold is this: making AI accessible, actionable, and profitable for overlooked communities is not charity work. It is not corporate social responsibility. It is justice. It is the correction of a centuries-long pattern in which the communities that built the most were rewarded the least. And the third thing is this, and it is the premise on which the show was built: change does not wait. It does not ask for your readiness. It does not accommodate your hesitation. The only question change ever puts to you is whether you're going to lead, you're going to lead it, or be led by it. What today's conversation means to me in the context of what we do here on Changing Trends and Times is this: we built this platform to be the space where the conversation about change is had honestly with the people who are doing the work, not just talking about it. Dr. DeMario Mcllwain is not theorizing about the AI revolution. He is not predicting what someone should build. He built it. 3 years before it was fashionable in a city the tech industry doesn't photograph. For communities the tech industry doesn't typically market to, and he did it with his wife, with a veteran's discipline, with a community servant's conviction, and with the philosophical clarity of someone who has read deeply in the tradition of those who came before him. That is what Changing Trends and Times actually looks like when someone is doing it. Here's my call to action for every person watching today. Visit drdemario.com, explore Skilldora, get the book, Train the Human, Deploy the AI, and read it before the end of this month. Subscribe to Talking Techish and commit to 1 episode per week for the next month. Start your AI education journey today, because the gap between the people who are prepared for this moment and the people who are not widening every quarter, the window is open, the door has been built. What remains is for you to walk through it. I am Charles Zachary King. This has been Changing Trends and Times, Season 1, Episode 18, and I will leave you today with the same thought I started with. Trends change, times change, the industries change, the platforms change, the tools change, and the economy changes, but the people who understand who they are, they come from, and where they're going, those people do not simply survive change, they define it. We will see you next time here on Changing Trends and Times. I'm your host, Charles King. You guys have a great afternoon.